I was recently on a DJ panel at the Montana Tango Festival. It was the first DJ panel that I've ever been on. And it was a very interesting experience that entailed me alongside, I guess, maybe 6 or 7 other DJs sitting. And there was a moderator who asked us questions, and then he would assign who would answer the question, and then the audience could participate. And it was an interesting experience in the way that it was the first time in my life that I've been sort of in a group of other DJs where we're answering questions to do with our methodology and our philosophy about DJing. So I got to learn a lot about other DJs and how they think about the music, and a lot of it was very surprising, I would even say. But the other thing that struck me was that there was a lot of people in the audience who were just really curious about starting to DJ. Like, what does it take to actually start to DJ? And there were some answers given that required a lot of work. Most of the advice centered around finding a mentor to study with and have someone who can give you feedback on your playlists and train you. And that's a really awesome opportunity if you can find someone like that. But I don't really think that's a reality for a lot of people. And that's not really a reality for a lot of DJs who are now DJing on the circuit. Like, they didn't start by having a mentor. I'm one of those DJs. I never had anybody train me. I definitely am a self-taught DJ. So I don't think that you have to have a mentor. You have to have somebody teach you how to do it. There's an easier pathway to getting started that I want to share with you in this episode. And down the line, of course, you can supplement your, education in this field by taking classes and training with certain people. But the barrier to entry is actually quite low. And I liken DJing a little bit to photography. Anybody can pick up their phone and take a photo with their camera app, right? Like, we all have access to that. But then in order to get good at photography as an art form, you'll have to actually invest some time into studying what makes a good photograph. So in a way, DJing in tango or in any other field is kind of like that. You are hearing the music. You have access to the same music that the DJs have. So you actually can begin to think like a DJ and experiment with putting together playlists just by knowing a few foundational rules. And then once you get that under your belt, then you can begin to think about making yourself a better DJ and going deeper and studying the way you would if you wanted to excel at photography. So if you want to actually get really good at it, you'll spend some time in that. But in order for you to just learn how to work the app, if somebody is like, oh, I've never taken a picture with an iPhone, you just show them like, okay, you open the screen and you click the button and here's where you take the picture and this is how you see it. Like, that process doesn't take very long to teach someone. And so in this episode, I want to kind of do that. For those of you who are interested in DJing, I want to provide you with those foundational instructions that will help you get started today, if you wanted to, on your own without spending any money. And then down the line, if you want to go further, then you can study with people, and I'll give you some recommendations of different resources that you might want to take advantage of. Now, those of you who are listening and you're like, yeah, I'm not really interested in DJing, but before you turn off this episode, I'm just going to say this, that all of the foundational pieces that I'm going to share are also the same foundational pieces required for you to get good at dancing musically as a tango dancer. Like, all of the information I'm going to share with you in this episode is the same information I share with dancers who are coming to me and saying, okay, I want to know how to now actually be musical. Like, I know the vocabulary, I understand the moves. I actually want to know what it means to dance to tango music. So you will find the information in this episode useful for both agendas. Now, I want to also entice you to stick around till the end, because I'm going to give you a very special offer just for listening to this episode. So stick around to the end to find out what it is. Sometimes I liken tango to a game. It's like a musical game. And both of the people involved in this game need to know the music, because it's sort of the script that we both follow when we dance together. So it really helps when both people are able to connect and express the music easily. So what is it that you do as a DJ ultimately, besides, I guess, exposing people to beautiful music and, creating some sort of a story with your choices? Like, you might be doing all of that, but at the forefront of your purpose as a DJ is to facilitate connection. You're there to increase the chances that as many people as possible are able to connect with each other through the music. So that's where you have to consider the level of the dancer, the community that you're DJing in, the familiarity with the music. I'll pause here to give you a real world example that I experienced for the very first time in my life. I've never had this happen in all of my DJing years, but I recently got to DJ in a small community during my travels, and the group that I was DJing to obviously did not know how to dance milonga. So when I played a milonga tanda, there was nobody on the dance floor. And it dawned on me that, yeah, I actually knew that this was a young community. They were all pretty beginner. So I didn't think ahead, and in real time had to experience the very uncomfortable feeling of having failed to play something that people want to dance to, because there was one couple on the dance floor and one of the people was my husband. So from then on, as a DJ, I decided I'm not playing milonga at all, because, these dancers, they're not familiar with that music. So I had to change my whole approach and go off script. So I had to stop thinking about the traditional way tandas are organized and had to start thinking more about, okay, what are these people ready for? How can I, by my choice of music, provide a low enough barrier, a low enough bar for these dancers to feel and get into the groove? Because ultimately, the energy of a really good milonga is built piece by piece through each couple connecting deeply and having those moments of that tango high that we talk about. The more of that happens in the room, the better the energy. So in Buenos Aires, a lot of times they would describe that as buena onda, a good wave. So, after a really good milonga, somebody might say like, oh, did you have a good time? And they're like, oh yeah, buena onda. Like, it was a good wave that we rode together. So as a DJ, your focus is to tune into what that means for that particular milonga, who the people are, how to cater to their level, how to facilitate them connecting more with each other. And you'll always be dealing with some very advanced people and some not advanced people in the room. It will depend on the situation as to how you want to treat that. And so anybody can put together a tanda or a list of tandas and just hit play. Anybody can throw up a Spotify playlist that's been created by someone else. Like that is a low barrier there to begin the DJing process. But the art of DJing will require a certain level of dedication and commitment to understanding what is it about the music that makes someone have an easier time connecting versus not. And that's a question that is sort of a lifelong question. And there's always going to be more and more that you will discover through this question about the music. There will be music that you really like at one point, and then you're not going to like it anymore, and you'll evolve through your taste. And that's kind of the point. I think developing your mind as a DJ, even if you're not planning to DJ, can be a really productive way of studying the music. It can give you a lot of insight into your own dance and how to connect with other people through this dance. So the rule of thumb is the more people are in sync with each other, the better the milonga vibe, the better the overall experience for everyone. And in that same little community where I said I was DJing, I couldn't play milonga, in the end, at the end of the set, it wasn't a big event. It was maybe like 10 couples or so. But at the very end of the milonga, at one point, I got it tuned just right so that every single person in the room was dancing. And even though it was a small group, to me, it was like, oh, wow, this is special. Because it's a fleeting moment when you find just the right thing for the moment, just the right tanda to match just the right kind of vibe to match the people's level. That's the high that DJs experience when they are able to tap into that moment of harmony with the dancers, with the people who are in the room. And every single DJ, as I learned on this panel that I participated in, every single DJ develops their own unique pathway to that. There are as many pathways as there are people, and you can be as unique and creative with this as you want. Honestly, it just depends on which direction you want to give your creativity momentum. One of the DJs on the panel actually shared that they have all of their music organized according to chakras, for example. And another DJ said that he really takes into account the key that the song is written in, or the intervals, or the time signature, or, like little details that inform them how they're going to arrange their music. So it can be so nerdy. And I think that's the place where people get really intimidated, because they might talk to some very experienced DJ who's been on the circuit for a long time and has this very eclectic system of how they think about the music and how they organize it. And according to them, you might think like, oh my God, it's going to take forever. So it's not surprising that a lot of people feel very intimidated. And I used to feel that way myself. I mean, I never wanted to DJ, honestly. Like, I thought it was such a stressful job. For the longest time, I kind of resisted it. And by the time I started, it was so much pressure, so much nervousness. But the longer I've DJed, the more I realized, like, a lot of this process is actually automatically happening at the milonga. When you go dancing, you're already can actually be tuning yourself to becoming a DJ just through certain points of perspective that you can take around your experience, like how you listen to the music, what you pay attention to. So let me go ahead and give you these fundamental rules and tools that you can use to start developing as a DJ today. Now, in order to start DJing, you need two things. You need to know how to organize your music. Like, what is the structure that is expected at the milonga? How are you going to arrange the different tandas? And then you need a pathway, a way of deciding how to choose which tanda to play. Okay? Let's talk about the first part, and that is really understanding how tango music is organized. Tandas are usually organized by orchestra. So the first thing that we must know as dancers and as DJs is that there are a number of orchestras that we always are working with. There's about 27 or so that are in regular rotation. Of those 27, I would say half of that is in heavy rotation. And you will hear them all around the world. And as a DJ, you will be playing from those few orchestras. Most of your tandas, 80% of your tandas, are going to come from those core dozen or so orchestras. And within those orchestras, we have styles. And that's the piece that a lot of times people don't really understand, is that those orchestras that we're hearing, they wrote music over a period of decades sometimes, and their music changed according to the fashion of the time. The style of tango music really develops in a more concrete way in the early 20s, when we can recognize it as like, okay, this is tango. Because of the early technology, a lot of the recordings are not very good, so there's not much music that we play from early 20s. It's more like late 20s is when we start getting some better recordings. But the music from that period is very, very simple because it's early. It's early phase of development for tango. So if you think of any art form, it's going to begin from a place of simplicity. So that music, the orchestras that were writing at that time, most of the time, they were composing stuff that was simpler to our ears when we listen to it compared to something that comes much later. So as a DJ working with these different orchestras, you're sort of going between the different styles throughout the evening, throughout the day, and you're giving people a different kind of flavor of the different periods and different ways of arranging the same songs over and over again. So there are three main styles that we typically hear. The earliest one is called the Old Guard, Guardia Vieja. It's 1927 to 1935 or so. The music written at that time, it's very scratchy, it's very simple, it's very innocent, there's not a lot of complexity. Then from 1935 to about 1942, there was a period that was called Milonguero style. And this can be a little bit confusing because you might be like, what about the Milonguero embrace? Isn't that a dance style? Yes. There's a lot of these kinds of situations in tango where the same word is being used to describe different things. So unfortunately, for some reason, this is the name of this style of music, and it's the one that's the most energetic and the most rhythmic. So from Old Guard of the 20s, we get into Milonguero style, which is more upbeat, of the 1930s. And then in the 40s, around 1941, 42, we phase into Tango Salon, which is a more refined, more complex, more melodic style of tango. And most of the orchestras that you hear will have some music that comes from one style, some music that comes from another style, like D'Arienzo. He has a style that's really milonguero driven, so he has very rhythmic style. But within his style, you also have his attempt at more of a salon treatment of his songs, so that more romantic, less rhythmic. So each orchestra will have a blend of different styles within their oeuvre, and you as a DJ get to choose which you play when. One way I like to think about these styles is as if they are rooms. Like if you imagine that you're going into a house and you walk into a room that has a very particular vibe. Let's say it's got a lot of plush furniture and it's very inviting to just sort of lounge and chill. And you just walk into that room and you want to like chill out. Okay. And then you walk into a different room and it's like a gym. And there's all these weights and machines, and the whole space makes you want to move. It doesn't make you want to lounge. It makes you want to be active. So if you think in those terms, this is what the styles do. Guardia Vieja, for example, is a very simple, very grounded style. music from that period tends to be very boring to some people because it's very simplistic. It doesn't have a lot of complexity. The rhythm is really heavy and very much into the ground a lot of times. Very seldomly will you hear a track from the Guardia Vieja period that feels very energetic. Most of the music from that time feels very chill. So it's kind of like that room where you just want to chill. And I love using those tandas as a way to kind of reset the energy or give somebody a chance to kind of just focus on the rhythm. It's a great style to play for beginners. So guess what I was playing a lot of during that milonga I was talking about. I was playing a lot of Guardia Vieja. And from time to time, I would go up a notch and go into milonguero style. But I didn't really cross over into any of the other more complex music because I could just tell people would not be able to keep up with it. So Guardia Vieja music in the body feels very relaxing. It's very easy to dance. You have a lot of time to go from place to place. It's very easy to connect with somebody who doesn't know much tango. When you go into more milonguero style, more energetic, you will find that it's still simple. You still can keep up. It's very rhythmic, but you're sweating more and you're kind of huffing and puffing and you're maybe having a hard time keeping up with your partner because your partner is doing a lot of things that you're not familiar with and you're trying to keep up with them, but the music is just sort of pushing you and pushing you. So it sort of creates a little bit of an edge. It puts people into more of like that exercise mode. So it's like that gym. And then when you go into salon style music, we sort of go into more of a poetic and lyrical space. So it's music that makes you kind of think. It requires you to know the songs. Like if you think about listening to anything by Troilo, for example, all of his songs have so much irregularity. They're very jazzy at some points. They're very dramatic. There's a lot of contrast within the song. It goes from very rhythmic to really melodic. And if I play a tanda like this for beginners, most beginners will complain about not being able to keep up with the music, feeling bad about their dance, not being able to connect with their partner. And I felt this for myself as a leader when I was really starting to focus on leading more. When it came to Troilo, that's the orchestra that I had the hardest time feeling like I knew what I was doing. If somebody put on Di Sarli, and Di Sarli, by the way, either Guardia Vieja or milonguero style or salon style, Di Sarli is just easy to dance to my ears. So that music makes me feel good as a dancer. And I know for a fact that most dancers feel the same way. So I'm a DJ who plays a lot of Di Sarli. That's one thing that is sort of my signature. But I do that because whether he is lyrical or rhythmic or melodic, there's always an ease to his songs that allows you to connect with your partner very, very readily. So that's kind of my go-to in my mind. When in doubt, play Di Sarli. And I've heard this from another DJ that they went to a milonga one time where the DJ only played Di Sarli for the whole length of the milonga. I am curious as to how long the set was because I can't imagine the challenge of finding 3 hours worth of everything Di Sarli. But if it did happen, even for an hour and nobody even noticed, that's just credit to the variety and the depth of his musical genius, which, of all the orchestras, like when I get asked, who's your favorite orchestra? I'm like, I'm so cliche. I'm not even that original. It's Di Sarli for me. I just can't help it. It's like beyond my own desire to like him. I like him because his music is so easy to interpret. So as a DJ, it's like you're taking the dancers on the dance floor by the hand and you're taking them into a space for 10 or 12 minutes and they hang out in that space. And then you say, okay, it's time to go. And now we're going to go to a different space. And you go there and you can continue to move people through the various sensations that the music provides. The Guardia Vieja is going to be a heavy energy that's a little bit more chill. Milonguero is more exciting, more rhythmic. Salon is going to be a little bit more melodic, a little bit more cerebral. There is another phase of music that I call modern and contemporary, where it's a bit more abstract. And that part of the music, like Pugliese and very experimental orchestras, you don't have to play them. Honestly, you can totally have a perfectly wonderful playlist without playing any modern tangos. But if you did play them, it would be like one or two at the most tandas from that particular style throughout your whole playlist. So I'm not really focusing on those on an entry level. So those you can save for later. You can just start with the 3 styles that I talked about. Now, let's just say that you're on board at this point and you're wondering how in the world you're going to know which song is which style, right? That's what we come up against a lot of times when we start to dive into the tango music and realize like, oh my God, how do I even learn this? So this is where I want to plug my playlists on Spotify that I've created that some of you have already signed up for, but this is a completely free thing that I offer. You can sign up to access my curated playlist on Spotify where I break it down by each style, and you get to see each orchestra represented within the style that's relevant to that style. So the playlists actually include a lot of other playlists. There's like an alt playlist. There's playlist of just the major 4 orchestras, Di Sarli, Pugliese, Troilo, and D'Arienzo. And I keep adding playlists to that. So if you sign up for it, you'll have access to all of that will get you started. So you can actually pull songs from those playlists to start your playlist. And if you're not very savvy with Spotify and you think, oh, I'm not really techie, this is too much work, I've also included a tutorial how to use Spotify to create your playlist. That's included with the playlists that you will have access to. So really, I've taken care of all of that for you so you can totally sign up for it and get started. Let's say that you are now ready to create your own tandas and you want to put together a playlist. I would suggest that you start by creating a playlist for 1 hour of music and making it really simple. You follow this pattern, which is the pattern that most of the time milongas follow. 2 tango tandas followed by a valse tanda, 2 tango tandas followed by a milonga tanda. Okay? So the abbreviation for that is TTV, TTM. Okay? That's about an hour and some change. I think of it as a cycle. So it's one cycle that you put people through, and through that cycle, you want to take people from one style to the next. And of course, you're going to have a repetition, and that's where you're going to be making a lot of your choices of like how you're going to repeat yourself and what you're going to play. Now you're ready to start making your first tanda, and you've gone to a playlist. Let's say it's a milonguero playlist that you've listened to, and there is a song there that you really like, and you want to create a tanda around it. There's 2 ways that you can do it. Well, really 3. The first way is you can do it yourself, which is really hard. And I will say that that's probably what keeps most people from DJing, is the realization that you would have to sit and comb through albums and find songs that will match particular songs. And how do you even know whether they match or not? That's really, really difficult. So I'm going to give you 2 ways that you can do that. You can bypass that and instead have someone else do it for you. Okay. Is that cheating? Maybe, but guess what? You can do it because you're just learning. You just need some training wheels. Honestly, let's not set the bar so high. You don't have to do it all on your own right away. You can use support from other resources to get yourself going, make it less stressful for yourself. And then once you learn more about the music, then you can start doing your own selection for tandas. So the first way that you can do this is you take the song that you really like, and you go on YouTube, and in the search bar, you put in the name of the song and you add the word Tanda. A lot of times, especially if you choose a song that's very well known, you will have maybe a dozen or so tandas made by different DJs who have posted those tandas online on YouTube. Can you use them? Yes, you can, because they've been put up there. And, you know, that whole argument where it's like an original tanda by someone and you shouldn't steal it, it's like there's no original tandas because there's not infinite amount of music. There's actually not that many songs to work with. The genre is limited by different circumstances. A lot of music we didn't get because the recordings were really bad. A lot of music didn't get recorded at all. So we actually don't have access to a lot of the tango music that we could have. And because of that, there's not that many songs to work with to create tandas that really work. So don't worry about stealing other people's tandas, okay? Use them. They're there for public domain. They're there to be danced to. If it's a good tanda, go for it. And sometimes, you know, I will ask for a tanda from a DJ. And, you know, to me, it's like I'm paying them a compliment. And most of the time, the DJs are like, yeah, I stole it from someone else. So... And by the way, don't feel bad about using Spotify for DJing. Most DJs on the circuit use Spotify. I've used Spotify for years. It's a great entry point for using Spotify, even though some DJs don't really believe in it. They think that you should right away own your own music, which is a good practice eventually. And eventually it's good not to use Spotify, but use another software that's a bit more reliable. But again, when you're first starting, don't worry about it. Honestly, just use whatever is the least stress for you. Okay, so YouTube is one way you can build your tandas. Okay, just pull a tanda from YouTube, find those songs in your Spotify, and boom, you have a tanda. Now you can do a 3-song tanda or a 4-song tanda. 4 songs is more traditional. 3 songs is great because, you know, if you're putting together a list for a small group where you want more rotation, then you can do 3. And a lot of people these days actually like 3-song tandas. Now, the second resource that I'm going to share with you is even better. And that's the one that I use a lot. I'm going to give you my own hack, okay, to creating tandas. This is such an awesome tool, you guys. I will link this in the show notes. It's called El Recodo. It's a website. It's kind of like an archive of all of the tango music, and it's got so many cool bells and whistles. It gives you a bunch of information about the songs. If you subscribe for their paid plan, which I think is about $20 a year or so, then you can access their Tanda Builder. So this resource, El Recodo, allows you to actually build your tandas with the help of their algorithm. So you'll put the name of the song, and when you find that song, you click on their profile of the song. You will find all of this information that gives you the year it was recorded, the singer. It will give you ratings by other dancers as to whether the song is considered great for dancing or listening. It can give you a little quiz about it if you want to like test your knowledge. But the other thing it gives you is it gives you a tanda, a possible tanda. So you don't have to work with the blank canvas. You can start with that tanda and you can plug it into your Spotify and then have a tanda prepared. Now, listening to it is going to be the next step in deciding whether the tanda really works, whether you really like it, but at least it's going to have a higher chance of working than if you were to do it by yourself right away. And there's ways on the page when you play with this feature where if you don't like the tanda that it gives you, you can click the button to refresh it and it will find a different pairing, which to me is an awesome feature of this website. So I highly recommend you check it out. And if you're on this pathway of creating your first playlist, this is what you would do. You would get your songs from my playlist on Spotify that you have access to, songs that you really like, and you decide, okay, I want to have this tanda, but with this song in it. You plug it into a recorder, it gives you a tanda. You plug that tanda into your Spotify, and then you populate your playlist with 2 tango tandas, a valse tanda, 2 tango tandas, and a milonga tanda. I haven't talked very much about valse and milonga. Those I really feel are kind of like a palate cleanser for the energy that you build with your tangos. That's how I treat them. And they're not necessarily essential for keeping a particular type of flow in the milonga. It's really the work of the tango tandas to set the tone. So you can really worry about the tango tandas alone. And then for the valse, once again, you'll have access to my milonga playlist and valse playlist within that same playlist folder. And you can go through the same process, find your valse tanda and milonga, which typically have only 3 songs. Please don't play 4-song valse tandas, except for once in a while. That's my personal request. That's been a trend lately to experience 4 valse tanzas regularly, and I don't necessarily like it personally. I know there's a lot of people who are very excited about it, so I'm glad for them, but I don't like it. I like 3-song tandas for the valse and 3-song tandas for the milonga. Please never play 4-song milonga tandas. Oh, that's when I want to walk off the floor. But that's just me. There are people who really love milonga. So again, it depends. Now, a lot of times question comes about the cortinas, and honestly, cortinas is your opportunity to express your personality. You can play them from whatever genre, whatever style, whatever decade. I love mixing up jazz with some disco, with some hip hop. To me, it's sort of like a kaleidoscope, and it's a way to experiment with different music. The only thing I suggest is listen for the first 10 seconds of the song and make sure there is a really nice entry to the song. Because if the song takes a long time to build, people are going to be like, is this a cortina or what's going on? Like they're wondering. So you want the song for the cortina come in really strong. So I'm sure you can think of different songs that you can use. And you can manually tone it down. So play the first 30 seconds of the song, manually turn it off, and then bring up the volume. So if you're DJing, you would just be using the volume control. You don't have to worry about cutting out a specific section of the song. That can come later. Now, let's say you've gone through all this work and you've put together an hour-long playlist. You have your 4 tango tandas, you have your valse, you have your milonga. Now it's time to test it. And this is where you can already be developing as a DJ, because guess what? You can play this for yourself at your house while you're cooking dinner. Just listen to the tandas, listen to the flow, make your observations. You will find so many insights about yourself just going through that process. Frequently, that's when I realized that I actually don't like something, or that something doesn't actually work the way I thought it did. So the first level is just to listen to your own playlist at home without an audience. The next level would be have some friends over and play your set. And, if you want to get their feedback, fine, but you don't need their feedback. Just kind of feel the energy. And one thing that I really rely on heavily when I make choices about music, especially nowadays, if I'm choosing to play something that's kind of esoteric that not many people listen to, I will try to dance that as a leader and as a follower. So I will put the song through that test and see if I'm still enjoying it. And a lot of times I'll realize I don't. And it will be really obvious, but it's not so obvious when you're just listening to it. So I think that, one of the core exercises that you want to do as a developing DJ and as a developing social dancer too, is to listen to the song and observe how it affects the body, how it affects your body, your partner's body. Is it easy to lead? Is it difficult to lead or follow? And that will really depend on the level, right? That will be something that you'll keep watching over and over again. So you'll find certain tandas work with certain groups, but not others. And that's going to be one of those things that is just part of the learning process. But to get started, it's very easy to put together a playlist that you yourself listen to and sort of acknowledge and process, and then listen to it with some friends. Now, the next step from that, even at this point, I think there's a lot of opportunity for a burgeoning DJ to have practice. And if you live in a smaller community or in a community where there's lots of practicas, or you know that certain people put together little practicas at their homes, or there's some neighborhood thing that happens and they might need a DJ, and you just sort of talk to people and tell them what you're doing, that you want to practice DJing. And I kid you not, that's all it takes. Honestly, it's just finding a place where you can feel little enough stress about it that you can step into that role and practice your skill. It's going to probably bomb the first time. It might not work very well, but I guarantee you, people are still going to be super grateful. They're still going to have a lot of fun. And if people feel your intention of providing and facilitating a good time for them, that intention does come across. So you can rest assured that even if you don't choose the best music, it will still cause a reaction in the audience. People are still going to enjoy it because that intention is going to come through. But let me tell you what's not going to fly. I definitely think the number one thing that prevents DJs from flourishing and succeeding is when there's not enough variety of styles in the music. This is the biggest mistake that I see DJs making, is that a lot of DJs will just pick music from the same style. They might go to different orchestras, but they just happen to really like milonguero style. And so everything they play is milonguero style. Or somebody who really loves Guardia Vieja and they're playing one Guardia Vieja tanda after another, and it just feels so heavy. So in order to keep everyone happy to at least a small degree, you have to give everyone what they want. So if you give somebody a really fast milonguero tanda, then people who don't like milonguero style will sit that out. And so maybe the next tanda, you then switch and give those dancers a taste of salon style music. So those other dancers will come back out on the floor. It's also the thing that keeps people dancing is when you keep switching the styles, because if you keep playing the same energetic music, for me, I'm like, okay, I'm done. I got 3 milonguero style tandas in me. And if the next one is also milonguero, I'm out. I just can't handle the energy. I want there to be sort of a peaking and then a release, a settling back down and then a bringing back up. So there needs to be that contrast. And as a DJ, that's what you're learning. So I'm going to again pull on my artist background, but when you're thinking about painting, for example, you learn what the primary colors are. But then the whole skill of painting is being able to use those primary colors and mixing in other colors to support that. So we're not just dealing with yellow, blue, and red. We're dealing with different shades of grays and dark reds and light reds, and things need to sort of balance in order to produce a cohesive, pleasant composition. And so as a DJ, that's kind of what you're doing. And as a dancer, that's what you're also doing. You're developing yourself and your sensitivity to the music. And everything that I just covered in terms of what will allow you to start DJing is, I would apply all of this if somebody came to me and said, I want to get good at musicality. What should I do? I'd be like, okay, first of all, there's 3 styles. Next, go listen to the playlists. And maybe, no, you don't have to go on El Recodo and build your own tandas. That's more specifically for DJing. But when it comes to that awareness of the flow of each style and how it feels for people and how are people dancing it, those things will be relevant to you because as a dancer, you'll notice you have an easier time for dancing some styles versus others. Like to me, I'm very easy at dancing Guardia Vieja style. It's very comfortable for me. And I really love dancing salon style. But when it comes to milonguero style, that's not my strong suit. I will typically, if there's not a lot of people of a high enough level who know the songs, if there's not enough of those in the room, I will sit it out a lot of times. And so I'm making my decision based on the fact that I have a hard time with that music. I don't feel good a lot of times when I dance to it. So my choice is to sit it out and save my energy for a tanda that I really like. So those are the kind of choices you're going to be making as a dancer. And they're very much the kinds of choices you're going to be using to make your decisions about the tandas that you play if you become a DJ. Okay, so those are all resources and tools that you can use to start your DJing process. But if you feel like you want more, you actually want somebody to guide you through it, you want a bit more structure, you want somebody to tell you what you need to know next, there's a couple of recommendations that I will give you. One is check out Horacio Godoy's classes that he from time to time teaches online. They are not recorded, so you have to attend them live. And that's a bit of a bummer. I know that because I want to record them a lot of times so I can rewatch them. But if you get a chance, if you see the way he publishes or announces those classes is on his Facebook, he'll just do a post on his personal Facebook page saying, hey, I'm teaching a class this day. So you just have to follow his page, go friend him on Facebook. And if you see him announce that he's teaching anything with musicality online, sign up for it because it's just such an amazing experience to learn about musicality with him. Now, the other resource that I'm going to share with you is my own program that I've developed. And the difference with my program is that you do get to access the recordings. Everything is stored for you to watch as many times as you need. This musicality program has a 12-unit musicality course in it that's self-paced that you can go through. It goes through all of the styles and the orchestras, and there is a specific module in there for DJing and how to construct your playlist. And then it also provides you access to me personally on a monthly basis when we have monthly calls where I can give you feedback. You can give me your playlist to review if you'd like, or if you want to send in a video for review of you dancing, that's also available. So this is kind of like a group coaching session that happens on a monthly basis. And then also I do a bi-monthly special topic webinar where we dive into specific musicality ideas and we do more exercises and more movement type of stuff to really connect the music to your movement. So all of that is included in this program. And for having stuck around long enough in this episode, I want to offer you the first month free of this program. It's a monthly membership. So if you want to join and try it out and see whether it's helpful, you can join today and have a whole month to explore. And if at that point you want to stick around, great. If not, you can cancel your membership. So if you want to register, here's what you do. You click on the link in the show notes. And then when you sign up, make sure you use the coupon code Fresedo. That's Fresedo. You don't have to capitalize it, but use that code. I also publish it in the comments. So if you want to join the program and check it out and see if this is something that can be helpful on your journey, and let me know if you have any other questions. All right. So I hope this has convinced you to go ahead and start DJing or at least sign up for my playlists that are free, completely free for you to use. I want to remind you that I will be at Albuquerque Tango Festival this weekend, and I just happen to have one spot available for privates. If any of you are going to be there, if you're interested in scheduling a session, go ahead and shoot me a DM on my social at IMSO I'm so Tango, and I look forward to bantering with you next week. Until then, ciao.